I'm Quinn Slack. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Sourcegraph, and want to talk more about Cody in the enterprise and touch on some of the points that we heard. That as devs, we know that coding is not about writing code. Writing code is the really fun and easy part. Coding is actually about understanding code. That's the pain. That's where people spend their time. And that is why we started Sourcegraph. So more than 10 years ago, Beyond, my co-founder, and I were working inside of two of the biggest banks in the country. And they had so much code, they had so much complexity, they had so many developers. It was really damn hard to get anything done, to build any kind of software there. And so we decided, let's go try to solve that for developers. And 10 years ago, we built Code Search. And that's something that helps developers see, how does this code work? Why is this broken? Or if I change this, what might break and who do I need to talk to? And so, back then we called it Code Search. And we got amazing customers using it. So we have some of the most sophisticated organizations in the world. We have more than 1 million developers. And that's great with Code Search. But really what we built is the ability to understand code. And that is the most important thing that developers need. That was critical for human developers over the last 10 years. And with all the rapid advance in AI, that is also incredibly critical for any AI that wants to write code. So let's cover the history in the last few years in AI coding. Most developers, when using AI for the very first time, they were using autocomplete. And that's good. It helps with writing new code. I use Cody's autocomplete all the time when I code, and I love it. But writing new code, that's a tiny fraction of what developers spend their time doing, as we just talked about. Most of it is spent trying to understand code or work with existing code, trying to refactor or debug or trying to migrate to a new library or all these things, understand the architecture. And that is fundamentally something that for AI to do well, it needs to actually understand the massive existing code base. So we've talked about understand code, and it's kind of an abstract thing, so I want to make it a little more concrete to all of you. I imagine that all of you have enormous code bases. You all are probably drowning in complexity of code. Probably one of the scary things is there's no single person at the organization that has the entire picture in their head. And most of the code base is written by people that are no longer working at your company. And in some cases, where people are long retired and they're sitting on the beach and they're not going to pick up your calls. So that is the problem. And that's why it is really hard to understand code. But, it's possible for humans to understand code. And here's an example of what that would look like. If you went to one of your senior engineers and you asked them some tough question about your code base, some high-level question, you're going to hopefully get a pretty good answer from them, from that senior engineer. So, that's if you ask a human. Let's do a little thought experiment, though. And if you ask that same high-level question about your code instead to some, let's say, the state-of-the-art general-purpose AI chatbot, it's going to tell you one of two things. It's either going to say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question because I don't have context for your code base, or it's going to hallucinate. And I think we understand why, because it has never seen your code. It has no access to the specifics of your code base. So, it's understandable. But then to continue this thought experiment a little bit, what if you tried to feed that chatbot some context about your code? What if you went and manually dug through your code and found the 10 most relevant files and docs, and you pasted them in at the top, and then you asked your question? I think we can all intuit that it would do a much better job of answering your question. And then you might think, well, what if I could automate that? What if I could automatically search for those 10 most relevant files and jam them in, paste them in at the top? And congratulations, you have basically built Cody. We all built it together here. Now, Cody does a little more than that, I know, because I understand the code, and there's a lot more going on. But that is the essence of Cody. And that's what we mean by that understanding of code that comes from this 10-year code search foundation that we built, feeding the AI with code context. So understanding code context is a critical component of any code AI tool. It's one of 3 things that we think are really important if you're considering which code AI tool to use in the enterprise. Context, choice, and scale over there. Context, of course, is does it understand your code base? Choice is does it work with all the tools and platforms that you've chosen? And scale is Does it work for big companies with tons of devs and massive code bases? And by the way, is it going to pass these security teams that those kind of big companies always have? Because unlike in the 2 or 3 months after ChatGPT came out, security teams actually do have a say in the AI tools that you all can use. So how does Cody stack up? Here's how we see it, and we're completely focused on making Cody the best code AI for the enterprise. On context, this comes from our 10-year foundation of code search. Cody can tap context from so many repositories across your organization. You can customize the kind of context it can tap. And you might be thinking like, well, yeah, of course the CEO is going to say that. But we give you very comprehensive analytics about the usage and accuracy, so you can take a look at that. Choice. We know that devs are very picky about the tools that they use, and they want to keep using the best tools in the 70 different categories of dev tool. And Cody works with code from any code host. It works with multiple LLMs, which means ultimately that it's going to work with the choices that you've made and the tools that your devs prefer. And scale. We've seen crazy scale. I never thought that I would see so many decades-old COBOL code bases when I started a developer company, but yes, we've seen that. We've seen organizations with more than 250,000 repositories. We have dealt with deployments in some of the hardest, most sensitive air-gapped environments, which Cody supports. And we built a lot of guardrails so that you can be confident about the security and safety of the code that Cody introduces with you. So ultimately, the best code AI tool is the one that you can use in your enterprise, and we put a ton of work into making the very best code AI for the enterprise. All of this stuff is available today, and it's in, and you can go use it. You saw the demo. You can go check out demos behind you. But I want to share a little bit about what we're particularly excited about is coming in the future. And there's two things. The first is more context. We've been talking about understanding the code, but actually if you're a developer, if you're a human developer, you can't just look at the code. You got to be looking at your wiki, your docs, your tickets, your observability tools, all these other tools that know things about your code. And of course, the AI needs to be able to tap that information as well if it's going to help you. After all, how is the AI going to fix a bug if it can't see the error logs and the error message? So more context means going way beyond just all code hosts, all code, but tapping information from all the different tools in your ecosystem that know things about code. And autonomous coding is the second one. In this room, I don't know, some people might tense up when they hear that. I think it's 3 to 5 years out from being really crazy, so don't worry. Although this is SF, and people might be really excited about this as well. I think there's that combination of both. And autonomous coding is getting away from the idea that the human needs to be in the loop. Right now, with code AI tools, the human is very much in the loop. They are reviewing every single thing that the AI does. They're not letting it do more than one step without supervision. And that's exactly how it should be today. But if we want the AI to be doing more, then we need to give it the ability to check its work, to be able to say, this code that it just generated, is it correct? Or even something a little easier, which is this code versus this code that it generated, which one is more correct? There's a lot of ways to do it, but just a quick sketch, run it through the type checker, run the tests. And if you keep going down that path, then you get to a world where any code change is deployed to, say, 1% of production traffic, and you see, for an e-commerce site, does it actually increase revenue, or things like that. If you can tie it to a ground truth business metric change, then the AI is able to check its own work and therefore start to try a million things in the background where no human is involved. There's a lot of work that it's going to take to get there. And I mean, in general, there's so much exciting science and research that we are doing and others are doing. But again, it all comes back to all this stuff only matters if it actually works in your enterprise, if you can get it in, if you can use it, if every single dev at your company can use it. And we are very committed to making all of these amazing things actually usable. So we were the very first to take code context and feed it to a full chat-powered LLM. And now, today, we're really excited to say that Cody Enterprise is now generally available for the enterprise. So thank you. Yes. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to all of our customers and users who have given us feedback and helped us get to this point. We are completely committed to making the very best code AI for the enterprise. And would like to say happy coding, but not quite yet because we got one more panel. And happy coding is for when you all are using Cody tonight. So joining me up on stage for a fireside chat will be Erica Brescia from Redpoint and Roman Huet from OpenAI. So let's give them a round of applause.